Welcome to the Artist Chat Room. My name is Natasha Castellan, and last week I showed you a first part of my holiday sketchbook. This week I'll share the second half. Hopefully I won't ramble on as much as I did last time. It was quite long. This quote I had last week, I want to stick with it just because I want to get more courageous, and I am speaking to myself more than I am speaking to you, which is life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's courage. I want to expand. I want to expand to be able to draw. I want to expand in my confidence, in my all the different skills and abilities in drawing, not just I want to draw better, but I want to be able to catch light and shade and tonal values and compositions. But if I'm not courageous to do it, I won't expand. So let's have a look at the rest of this, which unfortunately didn't take the same amount of courage. It was done from photos. Let's turn this around. Okay, so this is a drawing of my daughter, her husband, and my grandson. Not a great drawing. Even though I had time, the photo was a small photo. At this stage I wasn't as good at drawing people, but I'm getting there. It even takes courage to do this, to take your photos and to draw. It takes courage to finish a sketchbook. I mentioned in Uzbekistan that we went to a place called Bukhara, which was an old town. And this was a picture from the old town. This was actually not my view. I think I took a compilation of different buildings and I made my own little composition there because I really wanted certain things in here. And that was fun to do that, yeah. I love this one. I love this one that we were in. That was in Bukhara, but this was in Tashkent, yes, I said that here at the top. It's really good to give yourself some notes, otherwise you'll forget. The domes were beautiful, but then this city in the background and doing it nice and cool. Bus driving past, just that old and new together. Back to Bukhara, we had lunch and I did take this photo from this spot. I probably would have had enough time to have drawn there, but as I said, at that stage I wasn't courageous enough. This woman was, they had embroidery. I wrote here that I thought the embroidery must have been some kind of machine embroidery. It was so perfect, but no, there's the lady doing it right there in front of us. Cakes, oh my gosh, the cakes in Samarkand were just amazing. And I did that. Another Russian Orthodox church in Samarkand. And then we actually drove over the mountaintops and down, and it was snowing and the mountaintops were beautiful. Now what's really annoying, which I like to draw in sequence, I'm very anal about doing one page after the other, but I have another painting of, painting a sketch in here of the mountains, but I didn't turn to the right page. Some local people in Uzbekistan. Their crockery, I don't know if you want to call it crockery, pottery, I think there's a word for it, but I can't think of it, was just phenomenal, and that was my favorite one. I did buy some, but none was as beautiful as this one particularly, and that was where we were staying in that lovely Airbnb I showed you before. This was in Bukhara. Looking down, I remember I said I was drawing from a restaurant, and then this was from the top of that palace on the other side of the road, looking out a little bit, not at the restaurant obviously. This is a tiled mosaic in a wall, and that they were all holes, like in the wall, patterned holes, and that was looking through, and that was in Samarkand. At the Eternal City, I believe. I think that was there. Not sure now. This was at night. I actually love this, even though the cars are a bit wonky and everything's weird. I love this. I love the result, and it was because of the textures. I did watercolor first, and then I went with my Prismacolors afterwards, and I just love the results of this. I do like dark backgrounds for some reason. I have noticed that. And this was my grandson. Terrible paintings of my grandson, but beautiful ones of his jumper. I love the way the marks came out. See, I like free drawing. I'm not a real accurate drawer. I am working on more accuracy, but yeah. Going back to that island creek where the monastery was, this was so we drove to Creek. I think there was a bridge over to Creek, and then we looked around Creek, but then we got on a little boat and we went to the monastery, and this was at the monastery. This is in Rijeka, which is the city I was born in. The word Rijeka means river, and it's up north. There's a lot of Italian influence, and in fact Rijeka used to be under Italian rule at one stage. I liked the reflection in the water. I did that well. I'm happy with that. I'm actually happy with the water. This is more in Rijeka. Obviously that one is in Rijeka. We sat at a cafe. But this one is Tribal, which is that church was the church that I went to and had my first Holy Communion and confirmation, and I had a very emotional moment in the church. Actually, not in the church, but afterwards watching a video. Crkvenica was the town near Tribal, and it had this beautiful statue. See, sometimes I nail it and other times I don't quite, so I like that page. This one is hilarious because all I see are faces. I think this place is called Trsat. If anyone has been there, they would know if I said that, and they would say, oh yeah, I see that. But can you see all the faces and the mouths? So hilarious. My cousins would go and picking wild asparagus, which is much smaller than real asparagus. What do I mean by real asparagus? Of course it was real, but the wild asparagus is not the same as the ones for farms. And it was beautiful and it was delicious, and my husband really got into picking it with them. I wasn't as good at spotting them as they were. These eggs were still leftovers from Easter as decorations around Opatia, which is a beautiful seaside city that was influenced by the Austro-Hungarian Empire. These eggs were about 1 meter tall. That's the painting where is it? Oh gosh, don't you hate that? Yeah, it was after this. I should have pressed pause to do that. Yeah, I did this, and basically straight the next day or 2 days later I did that one, but I had all these pages between. That really distressed me, but it was lovely. It was also lovely to see this because now we're going down the mountain. The other one was more at the top, and going through the place. In Uzbekistan, Samarkand, there was a place, and the women could hire these outfits and dress up, and it was just beautiful. There's a young man who not only made the instruments but played for us, and he was a craftsman. He didn't look like he was over 26, but he could have been older. His skills, he must have started at a very young age. So here we go. This is back at those lakes, Plitvice, and I decided that maybe what I needed to do was concentrate on my tonal value. And this is all the water coming through and coming down. And I tried to even do some with marks. And I thought if I did a tonal drawing, I could draw water better. Totally sucked at it. I don't mind this page in general, but I didn't capture what I wanted. In Croatia, they have a amphitheatre that was built by the Roman Empire, and it's in Pula. There's a few amphitheatres around that the Romans built, much smaller than the Colosseum, but the only amphitheatre on the world that is still in operation. Now we're back to Pag, the island of Pag, and that's looking down from our, probably from near the cliff down at the Dražica, which is the little town. And this, one of these houses up here was the one my parents built. Oh, in Rijeka, like a suburb of Rijeka, or just on the outskirts, Kastav is a town, and they had these amazing sculptures in the town that were about a metre high, and they were fabulous. Actually, even in Rijeka, there was a quirky sculpture by this guy, quite naive, which really took my fancy. This is in Split. We did go to Split. I mustn't have drawn anything from Split. This is the only one I might have. And we were going through Starigrad, then we were leaving, and it was nightfall. Not quite night, dusk, that's the word. And going through there, the way the photo turned out, it was green, but obviously the walls weren't green. And this is me on the island of Pag. Dražica is the little town we stayed in. That is a lovely photo, and I feel like it's come close to capturing the sunsets. The sunsets is something that I really remember as a child being magnificent there. Going back, so I obviously went through my camera roll, found what was interesting, then went back through my camera roll. These are either in Uzbekistan or Tajikistan, any of those Central Asia. They are either designs that I saw on walls, ceramics, or rugs. And I like this page. It was interesting, fun to do. Oh, this was my little grandson. There was a little door that he stood in, and he had this quirky little stand. He had not been walking for long, and he had this weird way he was holding himself. And I remember my daughter said, "Is he going to have a problem with his posture?" And I said, "No, he just needs to learn to walk properly." And he would. Now we're in Singapore in the Garden Bay, and this was like a wall, obviously, and a hole through the wall, and I really like this one. See, I don't mind the way I did the water there, and it adds something to have text there too. It gives it context. Oh, they had this fabulous sculpture, and it had all the endangered species, but I particularly loved the octopus, and I believe I used this pencil that I showed you earlier, or last time. Yeah, I showed you that one last time. And this was those kind of towering things with the plants growing up it. The eye. Now we're back in Sydney, and that is probably the worst drawing I have ever done of my granddaughter. I am sorry, Kayla, that this is such an awful photo, but I just want to show you guys that sometimes we just draw awful photos, and it's okay to have awful photos, because it's just here in my sketchbook that no one ever gets to see, ha ha ha. But if you did it in your sketchbook, no one would see it, and no one would know that sometimes you draw awfully. So draw awful. And then I do have 3 grandsons, and I thought, how can I not include him, even though I didn't see him on that holiday. I spoke to him a lot, and we missed him, and I had to include him. And I finished this with Van Gogh. Sometimes I think there's nothing more delightful as drawing. My sketchbook is a witness of what I am experiencing, scribbling things whenever they happen. What a great quote. Maybe I should have started with that quote. And that is, my first holiday sketchbook, and I want to be brave enough to do more and more. Tell me, is there something that you really liked? I do like this page. I like this page. I love this page. And I love that page. Actually, all the pages with lots of colour. I like that one. Most of them are the memories that they give me. Even that, him playing. I like the going over the mountains. Where's that one with the... Yeah, and I love that one. I don't know which one I like the most, but they're the ones that I do like. So that's the end of my holiday sketchbook. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you did. I'd love to know if you did. That quote, great quote. Great quote. I need to print it and put it up about life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's courage. Let's be courageous today. Have a great week, and I'll see you next week.